Today's episode is brought to you by Alexandra Park BJJ. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a full contact martial art and combat sport that was developed in Brazil in the 20th century. With roots in Judo and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, has been developed and refined into a unique grappling art with the aim to allow a smaller and weaker individual to beat a bigger and stronger opponent with the application of proper technique. Based in Muswell Hill, North London, Alexandra Park BJJ's classes are designed so that you can develop your fitness levels, balance, coordination, and flexibility in a no-pressure environment, and to provide the opportunity to start a new sport at a reasonable price. At Alexandra Park BJJ, we aim to be inclusive so that everyone can benefit from this incredible art, not just the athletic or ultra-competitive. To book your free class, head over to alexandraparkbjj.co.uk or email inquiries at alexandraparkbjj.co.uk.
Welcome to Audiobookish, an audiobook review and discussion podcast looking at audiobooks both big and small, as well as radio plays, narrative podcasts, anything audiobook-ish. This podcast may contain spoilers, rants, curse words, mispronunciations of names and places, and more.
Hey everyone, you're listening to Audiobookish. My name's Fahed Rahman. As always, I'm joined by Poppy Knight.
Hello.
This is the first in our specials about the British Audio Awards, aka the Speakeys. It's a prestigious new awards dedicated to celebrating excellence in audiobooks and audio drama, brought to you by the bookseller and the stage. As audio storytelling continues to captivate audiences, these awards aim to recognise the writers, narrators, producers and creative teams who bring stories to life through sound. The Speakeys will highlight the finest talent and craftsmanship in the industry, elevating the status of spoken word entertainment in the UK. It's the first such dedicated awards for audiobooks and dramas in the UK, and a tribute to the format's rise and listeners' enthusiasm for the arts. And today we're very grateful to be joined by Katie Kennedy, aka The History Gossip. She is a historian and TikTok creator with over 500,000 followers and is the author of The History Gossip, Was Anne of Cleves a Minger? And Poppy, would you like to read out the blurb for that one?
So, with infectious wit and historical insight, The History Gossip brings you the mad, bad and dangerous tales from around the world. With entries for every day of the year, this is history, but not as you know it. Equal parts fascinating and funny, Katie's unique brand of humour takes readers on a romp through the history books and answers burning questions such as, was Anne of Cleves a minger? Did Mary Shelley lose her V-card on her mother's grave? And did George IV eat himself to death? And more. What better way to start your day than find out what other people have done before? The History Gossip reveals the funny, strange and utterly juicy tidbits throughout world history, each with a modern twist of pop culture references and contemporary slang. This is the ultimate blend of on this day history education and humour, making it the perfect gift or self-purchase for history lovers. It has also made the shortlist for the Best Audiobook Non-Fiction category at the British Audio Awards. The winners will be announced on Monday the 24th of November 2025.
Okay, hello Katie, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you.
We're doing well. So one of my first questions basically is kind of in the process of writing the book, how did you select, the dates and the facts and the kind of characters that you were kind of deciding to cover?
So basically how the book came about is I started posting on TikTok in October 2024, and what happened was I was posting like history facts and stuff, but I was quite reserved in the way I sounded and like the way I presented myself. I think it's because I'd seen the way like historians were on the telly, and I thought I needed to be a certain way and like be very serious and all of this. And like the videos were going all right, but then I stopped kind of caring about how I sounded and like taking myself seriously. And I did a video called Was Anne of Cleves a Minger? And that went viral really. And what happened was, because I was so embarrassed about posting at first, I blocked everyone I knew off like uni, family, friends, because I was like, I don't want people seeing us going like, did you know this fact? And then it gets like no views. It's just like, Oh, mortifying. So I did that, and then I posted the Anne of Cleves video, and it went on this meme page on Instagram called Great British Memes. And people were like, "Oh, is that you?" Because it went really viral. And I was like, "No, that's not me. That's not me." But then I stopped like caring as much. So it went from there, and I thought I'd feel really happy that so many people online have responded to me adding in humour and sort of telling history in a bit more like of a casual sense, because I loved watching horrible histories growing up and all of that, because it felt like you weren't learning in a sense. So I feel like that sort of like inspired me a bit. So I made videos about the Victorians, and then I had my agent slide into my DMs basically and go, "Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And I thought, no, because I'm doing my dissertation, because I'm in my final year of uni, like what is going on? But it sort of came, like the whole like concept of the book came from wanting to create something that was still, because all the videos that I make are 1 minute long, because when you're on TikTok, basically you have to hook people in within the first 3 seconds or they're gone. So that's sort of my idea there, is like I say something a bit out there, like it was Anna Cleves and it gets people in. So I wanted to have something that was still short form and accessible for people to like be able to like read whenever, and it wasn't just a start to finish one. You can find your birthday in there, you can kind of do whatever. So the concept for the book sort of came from that, making it a bit similar to what I do, but also having certain entries that were a bit more long form. But again, it was still fun, and it's aimed at a general audience, not an academic, like it's not like a deep dive into anything. And don't get me wrong, like I want to do that eventually, but because that's my first book, I don't know, it was so exciting, but I had to write it. I had a deadline for November as well, which made it a lot easier to research. So I think I can't remember which month I started. I just remember going on Microsoft Word and having like January, February, March, or basically, if people don't know, like the format of the book is 365 days of the year. So January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, I write about what happened on that day in history, but not necessarily restricted to one period in time. So I actually start with addressing that was Anne of Cleves and Minga allegations, which I do dispel. And then I just talk about different periods in history, and some days were, I can't lie, they were harder to research than others. And then I include like different bits, like top 5 power couples throughout history. I think I've got, the only one that I can remember is Gandhi in his flip-flop. And then I've like done a mix of like serious stuff and like jokey ones, like Cleopatra and Mark Antony, power couple, all of that. So it's just sort of like keeping the satire, but also making sure it's rooted in historical facts. So I was just researching, going through all of again, because I was at uni, I still have access to the library and everything. And there's a few dates that I already knew, and I thought, right, I'll add this in here, like a coronation day, or this day, this royal couple got married. But it's also making sure, because obviously at school, a lot of the time we're focused on the royals and like the winners of history and all of these like dead posh people, and we don't necessarily look at the normal people. So I wanted to make sure there's a few like stories in there that aren't necessarily about like the poncy posh people in history. So it's just like a big mix of everything. And I remember I wrote it over the summer. I was sat in my uni library, everyone surrounding us was writing about like some PhD very serious topic, and I was talking about like God knows what in mine. And then I finished it fresh this week at Oxford, because I'm now doing my masters, and I was slightly hungover, but I finished it and it's now out. And it's really weird to see in Waterstone still a year on. It's really cool.
Fantastic, yeah. And I think that is one of the biggest strengths of the book, kind of pulling off some of the things that you said there, is that, the fact that it's a mix of things, it's a mix of time periods, you've got really far back in time, but then you've also got as recent as sort of like, birth of the iPhone, sort of things like that, that's really nice mix of things, as well as, that big mix of serious and satire. And I really loved the fact that it's so beautifully seamless between when you are presenting something true and serious in a casual way and when you are being satirical and that's not actually true, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not in that you've included things that aren't true, but like you said about the flip-flop and stuff like that, like when you are being just purely satirical and when you're saying something true in a satirical way. And I just loved how they so seamlessly go together that maybe you even catch yourself going, oh, wait a minute, that bit was a joke, kind of thing that I think is really good.
I know, I just like have it in my own world. I imagine all of these like historical figures, like what they would sort of be like in the modern day. So I think I've got one entry where I talk about like Charles II, and on the illustration he's drinking either VKs or Guinness or something, because obviously he's the party king. And I hope to God people are like, okay, that's satire. And they don't go, oh my God, Charles II, he loved a blue VK. That's crazy. So do I. So like, hopefully they can, know the difference. But I know they will. But yeah, it's just sort of like presenting it in a way that's sort of relatable in a sense.
Yeah.
So I'd like to kind of jump in with a quick question there, Katie.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned horrible history. I was just wondering if you were inspired by any other kind of like comedians, like maybe Philomena Kunk or anyone like that.
Obviously, I think she's hilarious, Philomena Kunk and stuff, and I think what she does is so funny. But yeah, I don't really know, like in terms of comedians, because I know like sometimes if you can watch my stuff and you can watch a bit out of context, it can seem quite similar, but the difference is she's a character and I've got a degree and all of that, so and everything I say is like like rooted in accuracy and research, but I just love her dry sense of humour, and she's just sat there with like stone cold face asking these questions to really serious historians. I just think it's so funny. But comedians, I don't really know. Like I really like Chris and Rosie Ramsey. I love watching their podcasts. I think they're so funny and they're so effortless, and I love that northern humour that they have. It just it reminds us of home, and they're just so funny. So I do like them. So I look up to them as well in terms of comedians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so something else I wanted to ask about was sort of when you were writing it, did you already know, had it already been approached to you that it would be an audiobook? Did you know that at the start of kind of when the book got commissioned? Did you find that later on in the process? And what did you think about that when you found out?
Do you know what? I never even thought about audiobooks. I think I was so focused on like writing it and everything, and I was up to like God knows what time, like finishing chapters every night. Oh, actually, I think what happened was I needed like an extension on it slightly, because I think I had writer's block, if I'm being completely honest. And I was stressed, and I was like, I'm sick, I can't do this anymore. And I was meant to be recording the audiobook on a certain day, so I think they had to push it back a little bit to make sure I finished it and had something to obviously say in the recording. But so that would have been not very good if that had happened. So no, everyone was so lovely about it and very like supportive. So I recorded the audiobook in Leicester in at WF House, and I was like, oh my God, this is so cool and professional, and I'm recording an audiobook. And I remember I documented, like, not all of it, but a lot for social media and TikTok, sending videos and pictures to my mum and dad being like, look at me, I'm recording an audiobook, look how cool this is. And it was just very surreal, and I'd never done anything like that before. So the original day was I would go down for just a day, record it, and go home. And it sounds so easy when you say, oh, I'm just recording an audiobook, because you're just reading a book out loud, and it's like, well, I've done that before. But it's not. It's really hard. Yeah. And it sounds daft saying that. So I remember putting my headphones on and I could hear myself, because you're in like a booth as well. So I thought that was quite jarring. I was like, oh my God. And then I kept stumbling over the fourth word of every sentence or something like that. And I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. Like the producer who's like recording me and like editing stuff, he must be sick as a chip of me, like really sick. But he was really nice. And then we had to do it over 3 days, because when I was recording it, I wanted to make sure it didn't sound like I was reading off a script or off the book, because when I do my TikToks, it's very conversational, so I wanted to make sure it sounded as natural as possible and just as if I'm talking to you now, like very just conversational. So I think when you talk, you don't really think about when you're talking, and if you accidentally say like or you trip over a word, you just move on. But because it's an audiobook, they have to. I remember, I think he was called Alex. He was picking me up on everything I was doing. Not everything, but like in the sense of if I mumbled a little bit or if I didn't pronounce something properly, he was just like, "Can we do this again and again?" And it took 3 days to do, and I was so chuffed with it once it was finished. But I remember going in, and I think he must have just been told that it was a history book. Right. And then I sat down and I started talking, because the first, again, I've said like the first entry is about Anne of Cleves and how she married Henry VIII. But I basically talked about Henry VIII wanting to shag Anne of Cleves, and he was a bit like, "Oh, it's that type of thing, okay." But I just remember his face being like, "What is going on?" But he was so lovely, bless him. It was so nice. But yeah, I had to stay for 3 days to get it all finished, and I have a lot of cups of tea and crisps on the, like, because it just takes it out of you. It's really, I don't know, it's a lot, because I mean, the last time I think I read a book out loud was like year 9 English, when you have to do it in front of the class.
Yeah, and that's very stressful. Yeah. At least there's slightly fewer people watching you at that point.
Yeah, so at least if I mess up, it gets deleted. So I sort of like, oh, I've done this before, it's fine. I've done GCSE English and whatever. But it was really fun, and I loved that experience so much. And if I write another book, which I really want to do, I can't wait to get to record the audiobook, because I feel like it just brings it to life so much. So it was great, yeah.
Wonderful, yeah. And I think especially as well, like you say, because of the style of your TikToks and the fact that with the short form snippets of this one, it very much kind of mimics that it really needed your performance and stuff like that into it, and not a dry read. Something I wanted to ask related to what you were saying is obviously, the performance I think is the biggest element of this. And was that sort of the priority, do you think, or did you discuss at all with the producer over literal exactly every single word? You know, was he sort of happy if on occasion you said a slightly different word because that the performance was there in that section, or was it strictly word for word, do you think?
I can't remember. I think it was pretty much word for word. I say a few things, because I remember swapping out an entry for another one, because I was still finishing all of the book, and I had I basically gave the first draft to the editor, and it was still going back and forth, but I had the bulk of the manuscript, so I did have to go back and go, right, we need to change this date because I'm going to talk about Charlotte Bronte now instead of this, and I'm going to add this one over here instead. But it was very chill in a sense. Like, he was like, you have to say it as much as word for word as you can. But I can't remember what I think I sang a song halfway through, because I was talking about Oxford students and how they did this like
drinking game,
a drinking
kind
game.
So that we like to drink with. Yeah,
we like to drink with Jonty or something. So I did the whole performance for that. So I did the whole sing song. But again, I had to record that about 5 times, because I think I included, like, when posh people have really, really long names. I think I named him like Jonty Bartholomew something the third, and when you're saying that again and again, it's a bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had to record that a few times, but again, like, I think the performance element of the audiobook sort of made it what it was, really. But absolutely. I haven't listened to it back because I'll just cringe at myself. I've listened to the preview, but that's as far as I'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then I don't know if this is news for you, though, or if you'd already kind of agreed this with them. But yeah, with there being some outtakes at the end, like with the drinking song as being one of them. So that's quite amusing to listen to.
Yeah, I asked for that. I did say, yeah.
Wonderful, yeah. No, I think it's really good. I think it helps elevate it, and I think that's one of the things that, it's great that we have the speakies now, that we're having this award this first year, because there's so much exciting, fun stuff you can do with audio, it's nice to have that celebrated and things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of mentioned writing that kind of long Posh Boys name. I was just wondering, after doing the audio book, would that kind of maybe change the way you write a follow-up book, kind of bearing in mind that you're going to have to narrate it? And would you maybe make the sentences or the names a little bit easier for you to pronounce in that case?
What is the fun in that? Absolutely not.
Exactly. Good
attitude. Yeah. No, I love a whole double, triple, quadruple barreled surname. I think it's hilarious. I mean, I went to Durham Uni and it was full of the whole double-barreled surnames and everything, so it sort of was inspiration from my uni days as well. But again, like, I think I talked like about a few French people and Italian people, and I had to try and pronounce the names. And when I'm writing it in my head, I'll just be like, this person, blah, 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 and I'll work out how to pronounce it later. But again, me and the producer had to Google how to pronounce certain people's names, and we went on YouTube and we listened to the pronunciation about 7 times. And so that was quite hard as well. But you know what, it's not the hardest thing in the world. I just need to like repeat it so many times until he gets a good clip of it. But yeah, it was so much fun. Even messing up, we just had such a laugh, honestly.
Yeah, good. And I think that's the big thing of this, is that it is such a fun book. You know, you do have such a laugh. And even I found, so, you know, I'd have it on and then, you know, my partner was sort of in and out of the room, not really listening. And then he'd end up like laughing at just a short bit that he heard. You know, he wasn't paying attention to it, but something you said was funny, and it was like, as a little like, and it's just like, yeah, that's nice. And it made me think as well that, because when I was younger, certainly did a lot of listening to audiobooks in the car, and still do now on long trips, but I was kind of thinking about, families on long journeys and things like that, and I feel like it's the kind of book that they could put on, and even if most people in the car are like, oh no, I'm just going to do my own thing, that they'd end up hearing something without even trying to listen and go like, actually, this is pretty funny. And then, I was sort of imagining a scenario in my head like that, of, like you said, getting people hooked in, getting people interested.
It is. Yeah, I think it's because I've grown my platform off TikTok, and I know exactly, as a consumer of it, I'm constantly on the app, and I know if I'm not interested in the first couple seconds, you're going to leave. And I sort of have to think of that way as a working out, like, I want people to learn a fact. That would be amazing, because that's my job. Like, I want to educate people, but I also have to be mindful that it's a general audience. People aren't necessarily interested in history at all. So if I can get people laughing and then they learn a little bit and they go, oh, that's funny, and it didn't feel like they've been lectured at, because I feel like a lot of the time, like in schools especially, like the way the curriculum's written, like you have to learn all of these dates and this war happened and all of this, and like, as I love history, but I switch off at stuff like that, and obviously not everyone does. Some people love that, but for me, I sort of come at it as, what would I find interesting? Because I'm very much like, I switch off it a lot as well, and how can you keep people interested as well? So it's sort of gone from that. So if people can just dip in and out, I think that's the type of book it is. But I think long term, I definitely want to do a deep dive of something, and which will require a lot of research, and obviously like it'll take about probably a year and a half to write, and I want to make sure it's off, you know, good quality as well, because I want, like, I see it as like a long-term career, really, is like establishing myself as a historian, but also making sure, because I've got that niche of adding humour into it, I never want to take that away at the same time. So I want to I just want to make sure that I can be taken seriously as a historian, but I can also have fun with it as well. So, I mean, it's still early days, and I'm trying not to run before I walk, but I'm just enjoying it. Like, I never thought I would write a book, especially this early on in my career. I thought I'd need to do a PhD, do some really niche research, and then it would something that would happen eventually. But it's just amazing, and I'm so grateful for it. Really, really grateful, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fab. And it's, like, as well, like you say, just because your TikTok's on one style and this book very much mirrors that, doesn't mean that's the only thing in your wheelhouse. It doesn't mean it's the only thing that your audience will want either, because people have such varied tastes and like such different things. And I think it's very clear with how well you manage humour in this book, that if you decided to do something that was a bit more straight down the line, that you would still bring humour to it, because that is who you are and what you have in you, that even if you're not doing a silly book, it would still be entertaining because of that. So yeah, definitely.
I mean, there's other people that do. I mean, David Mitchell did it with the Unruly. Terry Deary still does it as well. I mean, like, I met him the other day, because he wrote Horrible Histories. Oh, I'm obsessed with him. So he wrote a book called Revolt. Not in a stalker way, obsessed with him.
I'll just sure.
If that's what you say.
But he's literally from near to where I live, and he grew up in the northeast. And I just think what he's done to make history accessible is amazing. And he's wrote a new book about revolts, and there's definitely some humour in there, and he signed it for us. And I went up to him and I said, hi, I met you when I was 10 years old, and you signed my Gorgeous Georgian's book for us. And obviously you didn't remember, but it's amazing how much of an impact like Horrible Histories and stuff like that has had on a generation, and it's made them so interested in learning about history, and I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think as well, an important thing, like you say, you have that connection with sort of being from the Northeast, and I think that's so important. We hear so few Northern accents in anything, in all audiobooks, to be perfectly honest. Even books that are set in the North are often cast with kind of RP accents. And as well, like you said, in academic circles, you hear it far fewer as well. It's something that's really important to have accent in there and show that, you know, because someone has an accent, it doesn't mean X, Y, and Z about them. You know what I mean? It's representation of everybody, and that's super important. And it's just, honestly, it's just nice to listen to. Honestly, to hear more Northern accents.
No, I really appreciate that, because again, I briefly touched upon it. Like, when I first started TikTok, I thought I needed to repress my accent a lot. And so I did sound like a completely different way. And I think that's partially from, I don't know, I think being self-conscious, thinking people are going to think I'm some thick little northerner type of stereotype. So it was sort of like, I need to repress this because people aren't going to take me seriously, because no one else on the telly or, you know, in the mainstream media in academia sounds like me. So it sort of was a bit from that, really. And then I just stopped caring at all. And I think it's just sort of like, I mean, like, when I was growing up, I never thought any different, because everyone around me in the Northeast sounds like me, if not stronger. Because they're from, I mean, I'm not from Newcastle, so my accent isn't as strong as a Geordie accent. I'm like Durham based. But I think even like going, because again, like I went to uni at Durham, and even then, like being surrounded by a different sort of people, it sort of made you feel a little bit like, oh, I sort of need to soften myself down a bit, because I don't know, certain people were a bit like shocked that someone from the Northeast who sounds a bit, you know, like me could get into places like that. So that was a bit of a culture shock. But don't get me wrong, that everyone was like that. I had such a lovely time at the uni, but there's the odd people, and it sort of stays with you a little bit. So I think that's why it started with my accent like that, and now I'm just don't care. So, and again, like, I'm glad it's been received the way it has.
So I mean, you kind of touched on there, kind of like maybe dealing with ideas about like maybe regional bias, maybe a little bit of class bias when it comes to like being like a historian, or maybe being taken seriously in that. Just wondering if you being a woman as well kind of maybe affected the way people took the content that you kind of putting out there, or kind of, you know, when you first started studying, if that maybe affected the way that people saw you as well.
I'm trying to think, like, I can't think of anyone being like nasty about, like, because I'm a woman. Don't get us wrong, I've had creepy men in my DMs saying all sorts of stuff, but I think again it's because the nature of the content, like, not that I'm excusing it at all, I'd say a lot of like raunchy stuff, but like, you know, talking about like sex lives and scandal stuff. So I do get a lot of creepy men in that sense, that I don't think if a man was talking about that, women would be, or whatever, would be in their messages being freaks. But I don't think I've had anything because I'm a woman. I think it's, but again, like when I started, like I thought Americans wouldn't understand, and they don't, but they also like to watch the videos, but they're just like, what is this accent? Like, what is a minger? Like, but I think they're intrigued by it because they either only hear like the Queen's English, or they'll watch a bit of Downton Abbey and they'll hear the downstairs servant people, and they'll think it's only one or two accents, but mainly the posh people. So I think because it's slightly different, I think they're intrigued by it, and a view is a view at the end of the day. Like, if they're like, I don't understand what you're saying, a view is a view, so I'll take it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was something I was thinking about then as well, because obviously a lot of it, you know, taking me back to my history lessons and Great Fire of London, you know, and all of us in primary school, we've learnt about that. But kind of thinking there, like you've said, because American audiences will have very different memories of history, though a lot of maybe our big hitters that we know, they might not know. And I think it's quite nostalgic. I found it quite nostalgic anyway, hearing about the things that, I've not really talked about since I was in primary school. But also with not really, like you said, not really enjoying history so much in school was more my experience. And this being a nice thing to, you know, show that it can be interesting and stuff like that. And again, the breadth of stuff that you cover, I think, means that people can listen to it and they will find something that resonates with them in some way. So like some examples of ones I had, I was so excited when you started talking about George Nissen and the trampoline, because that was the one history project I did that I really enjoyed, because I got to do it on anything and I was an avid trampoliner, and so I did it on George Nissen specifically in the trampoline. So that was so cool when you said that. And like I went to school in Bamber Bridge, so hearing that they were having none of the racist bullshit was great.
Yeah.
Stuff like that was just really nice, and makes me think that, yeah, even if you don't think you're into history, this is a fun way to get into it that makes it relatable, and yeah, reminds you that these are real people that whose lives, although they might not have had computers and whatevers, were actually pretty similar to yours. The same kind of, love triangles and all sorts of things that happen in your life, and language being such a great way to bridge that gap and prove that to you, and make it feel real. But then also there's probably a hidden gem in there that you would never have expected as a listener, that you hear and think, oh, that relates to me. So I think that's really cool. Have you had other sorts of responses to things like that, either to the book or maybe to your TikToks and things, where people are like, oh, that feels like me specifically, or that's really unique to me and I'm really excited you talked about it?
I think so. I mean, I get so many lovely messages. Again, like, I'm a bit surprised, like, because just how nice people have been so far. I will get people being like, I'm thinking of doing GCSE history, I'm thinking of doing a degree in history, because I really like your videos, and have you got any advice? And I always try to reply to people as much as I can, especially like even for Oxford applications, like people will ask, and it's always nice to be able to chat to people and they'll go, oh God, I learned about this at school, or can you talk more about, it always tends to be, can you talk more about slagging off Henry VIII? It's always something like that. So those always tend to get the views and stuff. But it's just nice. It's just normal people who've just got an interest in history. And what I'm trying to do is show that history doesn't have to be boring, loads of academic articles, and it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, it's a bit like that for me now because I'm still doing my masters and I have to sift through a lot of wordy articles, and I just feel like saying, you could have said this in one sentence and you've taken 5. But again, like, that's because I'm doing a master's and it's academia, so that's different, and I have to have like a different mindset for that in that sense. But that's obviously not for the general consumer. They're not going to want to read this in-depth article about something very niche. They want something that's fun that they can relate to and go, oh God, like the Victorians weren't so stuffy. They did all of these crazy things, and they wore all these arsenic dresses, and Queen Victoria, she loved, getting with her cousin and all of this. Like, it's not just that, because it's when you see them in portraits in museums, like you see the Tudors and they're all like, they've got a stone cold face, same with the Victorians when they're smiling on the pictures and stuff. So you get that like preconceived like notion that they're going to be very prim and proper. And when you do a deep dive into it, they're not at all. It's all just a facade. So it's just fun. Yeah, it's just, and I'm glad people can find history fun and it's not all doom and gloom. Don't get us wrong, like a lot of it is, but it's trying to find the fun in it and like the spark in it and the bits that we can sort of laugh at, in the sense like, oh God, why were they doing this? And I know that in 100 years time, they'll probably be laughing at us for all the stupid stuff we do now.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, so it's like a cycle, isn't it? So yeah, you just can't take it too seriously, sometimes.
No. One quick question on something that you were saying there. Do you find when you're writing your uni work that you think of a great joke and have to stop yourself from putting it in?
No, honest to God, when I say it, I've got two different heads, like with this.
Fair,
I do.
Yeah.
I'm in complete like geeky mode, sat in the library, no one talked to me for 5 hours, I need to write this essay type of thing. And like, again, like this topics I'm covering is so niche, and like, no, don't get us wrong, when I did my undergraduate, I did this really interesting module in archaeology, and it was about like prostitution in the Middle Ages and about how it was the church legalized it in some areas to try and like to have a hold on it in a sense, and that there was different like street names. I think there was one in York, I'm not going to repeat it, but it was very crude, and it only got, I don't know if it's been renamed or something, but it alluded to, it was basically like a lane for like the prostitutes and stuff. And I thought, this is so good, and I did make a video on that because it was so like my niche, and I thought people need to know about all of the craziness of prostitutes in the medieval era. So that was the one thing I thought I definitely need to make a video on. Yeah.
Just as like a historian, I was just wondering if you had kind of any insight about why men are so terrible, and if there's any kind of like
oh my god, that's
because like,
so
a lot
funny.
of the facts up in the book are about men being just behaving absolutely like reprehensibly. I was just wondering if you had any insight about that, if there's any history lessons that can be taught to modern man.
If I knew the answer to that, I think I would solve a lot of problems. But you know what? I didn't even sit down and go, right, I'm gonna slag off all these men because they've done that. I think they've just done it themselves, and I've happened to gone, that's really funny, that's really stupid, let's put it in the book. But I think in history, just people keep repeating themselves and doing the same stupid stuff again and again and again. And again, like, even to get a bit serious, this is why history is so important. And we go, right, some people have done this, and like, and this has happened because of it, and we need to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But even today, like, there's so much awful things like going on in the world, and it seems to still be repeating. So I think it's more important than ever to make sure people are learning what has happened in history and all of the like really sad things, and how we can make sure that we don't do it again. So I think education is the most important thing we can do, really. Yeah.
So and then the kind of the reason we're interviewing you is that you have been nominated for best non-fiction. I was just wondering if you can maybe talk a little bit about what being nominated means to you. You've been nominated alongside other books like A Voyage Around the Queen, Henry V, The Persian Pictures, and Raising Hair, and all these other books that are on the shortlist. Just wondering, how does that make you feel, and what that means to you kind of personally to be nominated?
It doesn't feel real, like, at all. It was weird when they said you've been nominated. I was like, what? Like, what? That's so weird. But like, I'm so grateful. Not weird in a bad way, obviously, but I think for me, like, I suffer from imposter syndrome, like, massively, and I know a lot of people say that as well, but I think I suffer from it when I'm at Oxford doing my degree. I had it at Durham a little bit. I've got it like even now. Like, it's just weird. I think it's because everything's happened in quite a short time frame. Like, I only started posting like 2 years ago, and like, to have a book out, to have it nominated for an award for a debut book is just like, what the hell? Like, it's amazing. And the other nominees in the category are fantastic. Like, I met Dan Jones, who wrote Henry V, the other day. We went for, I think we got spicy margaritas. He was lovely. But again, like, I've watched it was amazing. It was great. We were just like chatting, and again, like, that felt so surreal because I've seen him on the telly, I've seen him for years and stuff, and he's obviously wrote loads of books, and I'm like, how am I in this room? Like, I just chat, like, do you know what I mean? Like, rant about random stuff online, and it's amazing how it's opened so many doors, because again, like, I don't have those connections. Like, growing up, like, I'm not from these spaces, like academic or in the media or anything. Like, I don't have any connection. So I think having a platform has just changed the game completely, and I think I'm not the only person to say that. There's definitely, for other creators as well, it's a whole different ball game now, and I think it's sort of hopefully making the playing field a bit more level in a sense, because anyone can have a platform now and you can do it yourself, and it's not who you know, who your mum and dad know anymore. I mean, it is a bit, but I think, again, like, being able to do stuff like that, it's just weird, and it's amazing. And the team at Michael O'Mara have been lovely. My agent Emily at the Blair Partnership has been so supportive from day one. I love that, honestly. And it's just, I'm so excited to go. I need to find an outfit for the award show. I'm stressing. But I'm just excited, like, just to meet different authors, not necessarily from the history space, like from different genres, and just have a nice night. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just going to be lovely. Yeah.
Poppy, have you got any questions you'd like to close out with?
Not necessarily. I mean, I feel like we could talk to you for ages.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the nice things as well about the book is that it felt to me very much like when, you know, your friend has a big interest in a topic and you can just sit and listen to them talk about it and share that special interest with you, that I think is just a really nice thing, and a really nice thing to hear it in audio. You know, I'm sure it would have been fantastic to read it, and those illustrations sound fantastic. But I really loved, having you in my ear telling me these funny things.
Thank you. I know I have to say the illustrations, I can't draw, but the illustrations are fantastic. I absolutely love them. Yeah.
So yeah, just again to repeat what Poppy was saying, I really enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed your performance. Is there any projects or anything like that you'd like to shout out before we let you go? Can you please let people know, if they're not already following you on TikTok, where they can find you as well?
Oh, okay. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at The History Gossip. I've also got a podcast out. It's very early days. I think I've got 3 or 4 episodes out now. And the format of that is just very similar to TikTok and stuff. I don't necessarily do a deep dive. I just do different segments with guests that aren't necessarily from the history space. And we just have a chat about either what they're up to, pop culture, and then we do a bit of like deep diving on history. I think every segment so far I've asked the guests to explain different concepts to a Victorian child, like TikTok or algorithms or Labubu's. And so it's just like fun, and again, it's something you can dip in and out of, and you can learn little facts, and it's not overwhelming, and main thing is it's accessible to people, and it's just a bit of fun, really. So it's something I'm very excited about. Yeah.
And what's the podcast called again?
So that is a good question. It's called The History Diaries, and it's on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie, for taking your time to join us today.
Thank you for having me.
So again, just to repeat, this is one of the episodes we're going to be doing about the British Audio Awards. The winners are going to be announced on Monday, the 24th of November. I believe it's probably going to be live streamed as well. So please keep your eyes open for that. Once again, Katie, thank you so much. Poppy, let's say bye.
Bye.
Bye.